a full-time job that all of us must know that it requires divine intervention is an issue of parenting. Now, what is the purpose of today's discussion? So obviously is to equip parents and mentors with tools, one, to identify, not just identify, understand, and nurture children's temperaments. And also, there's also another aspect, celebrating their God given uniqueness, guiding them with grace. So, what we must know is that every child's temperament or personality is a gift. And the fact that it is a gift, it is not right for anybody to try to change them to what they think is right. And obviously, I would want to assume that there's a question which can be asked: what is a temperament? So, a temperament is a God-given emotional and behavioral blueprint a child is born with. So this is their personality, this is their temperament, this is how they react, they relate, and they regulate themselves. This is a gift. And this has to be emphasized. There are many times when we're parenting, we want to change that which God has gifted. So a personality is a gift. Forget about the flaws. There could be flaws, there could be weaknesses, but all in all, the way a child reacts, how they regulate themselves, how they relate with the environment they come across with is a very big thing that each parent must actually understand. Now, when you look at Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, which says, train up a child in the way he should go, it means one, personal involvement. You can never be an absentee parent and then relegate that job to the mates, to the garden boys, or to the aunties, to the cousins, and everybody. Training up a child, it means personal involvement. Not just personal involvement, personal evaluation. Not just evaluation as well, it's now trying to put up a way, how should we correct it? I love one, the Adventist home book says, a child's character is like a garden. If you see a weed, you pluck it out. And if you see there are any insects, obviously the insecticide is going to do some good job. If there is any pesticides as well, so it is a principle as well. So when you look at this, it is not just a moral duty from this verse, but it must be according to their design in how you do the parenting. You can never apply the same methods to the 5 children you have, to the 3 children you have, and you said you're going to apply the same way for using one method. Each one must have a different way that they must be understood. Now, for us to be very practical, it is we may have to try to see which types of temperaments. How do we, in the first place, how do we identify the temperaments? How do we identify their personalities? How do they react? How do they relate? How do they regulate themselves? So those are some of the things that we have to do an identification. Unfortunately, most of us parents do not really know or understand or later on appreciate the temperaments of our children, because you can never actually use the temperament of child A to try to deal with the others, because in some other instances, you may agree with me, you break the child. Other than building them up, you're going to break them up because you're trying to use one method for different temperaments. So, but how do you identify and even appreciate a child's temperament? So, number one, watch reactions, one, to new people. If there is any new person, see how they react. Secondly, check the changes and see the challenges. So, just by observation, that is one thing that we can try to check what is the temperament of a child. Number two, listen to their language. Do they express themselves emotionally so freely, or they hold back? Because that is also another issue. Because if you're going to use a method of a person who withholds, who holds back, and try to use a harsh way of dealing with them, they'll hold back, and you may never know what they harbor. If they are freely expressing themselves, probably it's much easier, or you may find a better way of trying to ensure that you take advantage of the free expressions. If they hold back, find methods as well of trying to unlock that holding back. That's point number one. So number one is watch their reactions to new people, to the changes or challenges. Secondly, listen to their language. Are they able to express themselves freely, or they hold back? The other one, observe the energy levels. Are they active or reserved? That has to be done. Lastly, track emotional intensity. Do they feel deeply or they stay neutral? So at times, it's very good for you to take a journal. For those who love journaling, even if you don't love how to journal, please take a notebook and ensure that you start journaling your child and see how you can do it. But that cannot just be done in a very simple way. It has to be done in a very prayerful way, trying to notice the patterns with them. And obviously, as you pray, obviously it has to be done. Please, Lord, help me. Because as we know, children, one, as this group is called, every child is special. Every child is unique. Every child is God's gift to mankind, and therefore each one must be able to watch them and do a journaling prayerfully. You check, you watch, as we said, number one, watch the reactions, listen to their language, observe energy levels, track emotional intensity. Once you take that interest, friends or fellow parents, then it will be much easier for you now to do now. How do I parent? It helps you to move to the next stage of parenting. Now, what are the challenges that we face as parents as we parent, especially when we do not know the temperaments? Sometimes we know the temperaments, but what we do not appreciate them as gifts from the Lord. And that has been seen from the biblical moments through the ages past, even up to this time. We find ourselves that we've got a lot of challenges in terms of how do we deal with a child. So, number one, the challenges we face because we do not know the temperament is one, there is a lot of comparison. So I think all of us growing up, we've gone through one of the most painful experiences is when your dad, your mom, your siblings, everybody, including sometimes in school teachers, says, but the other child was more intelligent than you. Oh, this guy is gonna go far. For me, growing up, it was one of the most painful instances. Growing up, I remember my young brother was much more active, much more faster in the way he dealt with, he reacted to instructions. I was on the slower side. And being told that my brother is more sharper than me, I'm down. It actually just breaks down. So the challenge number one, because we do not appreciate the temperaments, the personalities that God has given them, we end up doing more comparisons with siblings, with peers. But remember what the book of Psalms 139, verse 14 says, we are all wonderfully and fearfully and wonderfully made. In other ways, it doesn't matter how the reaction, how they regulate themselves, how they relate with the environment and its elements. The Bible is very clear. Every child is wonderfully and fearfully made. So avoid making any form of comparisons because we are made different. Secondly, another challenge that we face is an issue of mislabeling. Okay, so we'll look at these temperaments. There are other children who are so confident because that's how God has given them. We start calling them, you're too bossy. Generally, you see how the cholerics will behave or go through some of those personalities. We find them to be too bossy. A melancholy tell them they're too sensitive. And you see some of those statements because we mislabel them, not appreciating their temperaments. We damage their self-esteem, we damage their ego. And the moment we let them go out, they'll grow up as broken children. Then number three as well, there is also a mismatch in terms of parenting. You find that there is intensity mismatch, whereby if the parents expect a child who's actually a slow reactor, then they want to actually apply the same intensity with child A, who's actually a fast reaction or regulates himself, but then you find that there's a mismatch. So challenges number one, I said there's a comparison of which we need to avoid. We normally find ourselves comparing four children, three children, two children who've got different personalities or temperaments. Sometimes it may be one child, but because you've got cousins not living under the same roof, at times under the same roof, but you still start making comparison. There's also an aspect of mislabeling a child. You're too bossy, you're too sensitive, you're too loud, you're too what, and all that because we do not really appreciate them. The last one, there's a mismatch in the way that parenting is being done. So those are some of the issues that may actually come up with. Now, how do we become intentional? How do we become purposeful? Of course, if a child is a gift from God, if his personality is a gift from God, therefore, no parenting can be done without God's guidance. So obviously, it must be being purposeful and being prayerful, even as we deal with the aspect of parenting. You can all agree, it is one of the most difficult things you can ever do is parenting. When a child is at 2 years old, they're the sweetest. The moment they move into their teenage years, it becomes a very big challenge. And I remember a Baptist preacher or a singer and author, Bill Gaither, says actually a teenager is God's revenge on mankind, implying that as a child goes in the teenage years, young adults and those ages becomes a bit of a challenge. But the earlier we start, the better. Even when they have grown up, we can still apply these methods of trying to deal with these children in a way that we can manage them and make our home, our parenting as best as we can. So, how do we do this? Number one, adapt your approach. Adapt your approach. So, discipline and encouragement must match the child's temperament. You can never, I have my son. Initially, obviously, I was very hard on him. And actually, the more I became hard on him, the more it never worked. Pastor Mishek knows the young man. It never just worked. It was actually breaking him because his temperament is more or less is firm, but he's a gentleman whereby if I go with him for a run and we come back walking and I have a conversation with him, I've gotten a lot out of him. For those who could have seen me at a football match, you only see me when my son is around. It's much easier. You take him for a football match during a break time, then you have a few life lessons, or when you're way back, or you go for a movie, you go for even watching a football match in the house, then you just have that conversation with him. So the point is, there are children whom we have to be very firm when having a conversation with. So adaptation must apply. For others, you must just actually throw in a few jokes with them. Uh, there's one child we have who loses concentration. So you find them just playing with their fingers. And I realize the moment I would want to be too tough on them, you find her crying. So I'll make a joke. Can you have a conversation with your fingers? Tell them, see you later. And please give them a kiss, and she'll laugh and she'll never do it again. So, in other ways, ensure that each child is treated different depending on the temperament. Each the others may need actually the discipline, the encouragement must be done in a different way. And the moment you handle it that way, it's much easier. You take a child out, sometimes for those who have got a few friends, probably may find that actually they may get actually more motivated by introducing them to people they think they can talk to them, people they can open up to them. But what we're trying to say in this session is that once we adapt our parenting approach in terms of encouragement, in terms of discipline, you find that actually children may be much more easier to correct, much more easier to discipline, much more easier actually to encourage. So that is one of those the parenting with purpose and prayer. Second one is model Christ-like traits. Okay, so how did Christ do it? Christ was patient, very patient for the sanguine. Remember how Peter was? Peter was the sanguine who talked about these temperaments or personalities who always talked and said anything without much thought. He was very patient, and that's how Christ was. Christ as well was acted with a lot of gentleness for the choleric. Remember how John and his brother Andrew, James rather, came back and said, let's go and burn these guys who refuse to accept the gospel. He was very calm with them. And actually, there was also courage for the phlegmatic. I'll talk about this temperament. So depending on how a child is like, we must actually have Christ like traits in terms of parenting. Patience comes in for the sanguine, whoever is active. Gentleness for the another personality or temperament. Compassion for the melancholy. Courage for the phlegmatic. So it goes in all those aspects. So we are called as parents to ensure that we've got multiple personalities. prayer for ourselves, patience as well for ourselves, and try to adapt, because if you do not do this, we might do more damage than actually parenting itself. The last one is pray over your parenting skills. Ask for wisdom. James 1, verse 5, the Bible says, does any one of you seek wisdom? Let him ask from the Lord, who is able to give without sparing. And also, you need a lot of discernment to guide a child's heart. And these seem so simple, they're very, very complicated in this aspect that we live in. So, number one, adapt your parenting approach in terms of discipline. Number two, model Christ like traits. And the last one is you also need a lot of prayers as God's child. Now, let's look at the practical steps. Let's look at the personalities. So you may come across these technologies for the first time, but just get what falls under them and see how God can help us. So number one, there is a personality we call a sanguine. A sanguine, Sanguine, a sanguine. So a sanguine, these generally, if you look at their personalities, it's one of those personalities. They are generally very active, or normally cheerful. Normally, they will speak without much thinking, and they are very social in terms of their personality. So you find that this child is smiling at everything, is laughing at everything, they're outgoing, they may actually react or speak without much thought. That is one of the first, actually, personalities that you may have to know. So see about your child. What type of a child? Are they outgoing? They only become very active when it's time to go out. They're always the noisy ones. They're always the cheerful ones. We call these are the sanguines. There's another one whom we call a choleric, which is Choleric. They are generally very bored, very courageous, very driven in whatever they want to do. These are the ones whereby within a short time, if somebody is delaying what they want to do, they are so driven. They want to pass number one. You can see all the energy is going into that. There's a project they have, they will suspend everything until they achieve what they have to achieve. These are what we call a choleric. So you can see the differences. So if you want to apply a certain approach to a choleric, they will react to you because they're already self-driven. There is also a melancholy, which is Melancholic. These are very thoughtful. These are very sensitive kind of personalities, and you could see how you handle them. Over a small thing they are crying, and then you say what are you crying? You can't go, because they're very thoughtful. Over a small matter they'll go into overthinking drive. They are very sensitive. They may misunderstand a little thing, so how you manage them is very critical. There's also the last one, the phlegmatic. They're generally very calm, very easygoing. They do not panic. No matter how much you're going to shout at them, they will still be in a very relaxed mode. So these are generally the personalities. Let me go through them. The sanguine, cheerful, social, outgoing, very loud, most times very jovial, and these are the ones. The choleric, they are bored, they are driven, they are focused. They don't want anybody to disturb them in whatever they are doing. And you come and disturb them, their reaction can be very vicious at times. Melancholy, they are thoughtful, they're sensitive. Mind what you say, mind how you look at them. Over a small thing, they may overreact. And the phlegmatic, they are calm, they're easygoing. Now, these are the four temperaments. Now, as you see these four temperaments, a person does not have only one. They normally have a combination of these, and normally one or two may become the dominant part of it. And this is how it is. So you find that one is extremely dominant. They may have a choleric, bored, driven, but they may also have a sanguine, kind of cheerful and outgoing and very social. They may also be social, but there's always one which is very, very sensitive among us. or I mean the most dominant of these all. So the point is, what should a parent do? So as you sit there, as we said, number one, watch their reactions. How do they relate with people, especially new ones? How do they relate to change? How do they relate to their happiness? How do they relate to challenges? Number two, I said listen to emotional language. How do they speak? Observe their energy levels. Track emotional intensity. As you do this, please do it in a very prayerful way. Ensure that you do the journaling as one who knows what they are doing. Now, what is going to help you now is obviously you are going to adapt your discipline, adapt your encouragement to what you are going to observe about these children. As we said, model them to Christ-like kind of traits in terms of reacting to people. And how do you do that? We said for a sanguine who's always active, who's always fast, outgoing, exercise patience. For a choleric who's bored, actually, who's driven, ensure that you are very gentle to them. For those who are a melancholy, very sensitive, very thoughtful, be compassionate to them, because without that, then you're going to break them. Then for a phlegmatic, who is generally calm, easygoing, there's one thing you need with them: be courageous with them, because again, because they are too easygoing, if you're not courageous with the right firmness, you're going to actually break them. So this is ideally how you deal with these issues. It's not an easy topic, it's not an easy thing to do, because it's very complicated, because if not well handled, other children may feel as if you love the others and you don't love them. So it is a full-time job. It is something that we must actually spend time about our children, appreciate their personalities and handle them as they are. So, but how do you do this? These are just tips. These are just there to provoke your thoughts and think about how we may actually become better parents and actually have better children. So if a sanguine, normally the energy levels are high, you may find that they need more of video schedules. Celebrate wins with them. They want, when they've done something, you really have to talk about it. And it must actually be done in a moderate way. They come out as champions in swimming, encourage them. They did not do well. Ensure that you encourage them that they'll always be next time, and all that. The other thing is teach quiet times as well, because they would always want to be talking. Teach them, regardless of them being sanguines, them being predominantly those who are outgoing, they want to be talking every moment and each time. Teach them at times to moderate their energies. So that is quite important, because remember, they are outgoing, they are social, they want to be, they are cheerful, they want to do anything at every time. They don't want just to sit and be who they are. So this is what is expected. The other one is a choleric, and we said a choleric is one who is very bored, who is very driven, who is very focused. Such a personalities help them, offer them choices at times, because they may actually be more focused. They just want to be talking about projects, talking about school, talking about church. They are so focused. So you need to help them make the right choices, make them evaluate, show them how to come up with choice, so that as they invest their energy in that high driven energy, they'll be able to come up with something that is better. And generally, you find that the cholerics, because they are bored, they are driven, they are generally leaders. Please affirm their leadership style. You realize that most parents will always actually castigate them. You always want to be a leader. You always want to lead others. Even as you affirm their leadership, teach them to accept that even others can lead them. Teach them also to know that better leaders are those who are willing to be led. Teach them to set boundaries, because such children will want to control everybody. They think their ideas are always the best. So we teach them to say, please remember that everybody has a brain. Everybody can think, so allow others as well to think even as you do the evaluation. Teach them to be leaders without positions. We have a lot of challenges in corporate spaces, in churches, in society, because such a group always want to lead even when it's not their time, always want to lead even when it's not appropriate time for them to lead. Teach them as well to remain quiet and also be satisfied in that state. There is a melancholy, very sensitive, very thoughtful. Mind how you criticize them and actually avoid criticism at all costs. See how you drive the point. If they are wrong, yes, tell them you're wrong, but ensure that you manage them. This is a God given personality. Encourage creativity as well, because you find that they are thoughtful, they are sensitive, they normally go into a certain drive where they are thoughtful and they are sensitive, they're easily injured. So the moment you encourage creativity, it expands their horizon, expands, also reduces the levels of sense of sensitivity and thoughtfulness. The last part on this kind of children is build resilience. Generally, those children are very thoughtful and very sensitive. They lack resilience. They easily fall. They easily wither, and this is where we come in as parents to ensure that we become their biggest cheerleader. The last personality is a phlegmatic. These are generally calm, easygoing, do not panic, and always the question has to see how do we handle them. Obviously, do a bit of nudging, push them a bit, but in a gentle, in a moderated way. Celebrate their effort. Teach conflict resolution with them, because that is one of the issues that they have with these kind of issues. So, in all these scenarios you've seen, you can see that each child has got a different temperament. The four I've mentioned, but even the four, generally it's a combination, only one or two is dominant. And the fact that it is dominant, each child must be treated in a different way. Others might be driven in terms of doing homework, others may not. And therefore, we must find ways of ensuring that those who are driven continue being driven, but you moderate it. Those who are relaxed, easygoing, and calm without panicking as well, we find ways of ensuring that we up their weaknesses and manage their personalities. Now, as we draw to a conclusion, how and these are basically ways of how we can improve ours. They are what we may call mentorship circles. Ensure that you pair your children with temperament aware mentors. There are some people, if they are not aware, they may just actually break our children, or they may not actually be of much use. The other aspect we may think of as well is church-based parenting workshops. Share testimonies. Ensure that there are biblical parenting models. At times in our churches, we bring up so many big topics. In the Adventist church, there will be the mark of the beast, there will be all sorts of issues, and yet you forget what Christ called the weightier matters. And that is ensuring that there are enough topics, there is enough modeling of our children, modeling of parenting, and hear from those who've done it before. They could not have been the most successful, but you could actually learn from their aspect. But even as you do this, we cannot forget being cultural sensitive in terms of parenting. So please, as we look at all these issues, ensure that we put our children as a focus. Remember, many a times we focus on mentoring others in our corporate circles, mentoring others in our church circles. Everybody respects you except your children. Why? Because we do not actually realize that this is a full-time job that God has given us. Don't be like Moses, who mentored Joshua, who mentored Caleb, and yet forgot his own children, Gershom and the other son, who've gone into history, into oblivion, because his concentration was on somebody else. But as I conclude, remember that every child is special, because every child reflects a unique facet of God's image. Parenting with temperament in mind is not about control, it's about stewardship. Let's raise children who know they are seen, they are understood, and they are loved. This is where my presentation ends, and therefore I would open it up as I leave Pastor Mishek to moderate. If there is any, is it Sister Chiwesori who's moderating? This is where I end my presentation for the day, temperaments and parenting. Thank you.
Wow, we want to thank you, Elder, for such a wonderful, powerful lesson. So we'll allow a few questions. Anyone with a question can ask, and then Elder will be able to help us where we are behind. Pastor Mishek, are you available?
Yes, yes, I'm in. I'm just hearing if parents, could there be anyone with a question on temperaments? Or maybe you joined late, there's a clarification that you also want. Maybe you have a question on the certain behavior of a child. Please, this is the right time, this is the right forum where you can ask the presenter and other mentors who have just joined on call to just guide on how we can do it. Please feel free, maybe you can write a message or you can raise your electronic hand. I see Sister Roxanne, you can come through, please.
No, Chama's mother here. Chama's mother.
Yes, please.
Not
Yes,
Roxanne.
please, Chama's mother.
I just want to thank the presenter. The topic was very informative, especially for some of us with teenage parents. I mean, teenage kids. Sorry, I'm stirring my tea. We drink a lot of tea around this time as Kenyans. But anyway, yes, what I was saying is it was very informative, the topic, for some of us with teenage kids. And I'm very happy that you brought it around this time, especially when they are home, since they are, for some of us, they've closed school. I believe that it's going to build us if you continue to have such kind of presenters to just remind us as parents on the importance of how to be sensitive when dealing with these kids, because they're just not kids, but they're also human beings on their own with different behaviors and different reasonings. So thank you so much. Although I joined without hearing the name of the presenter, but I like that. I love the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that beautiful and very beautiful comment, Mrs. Chanda. Thank you. Dear parents, could there be anyone else with a question on the topic that we have presented? You can send a message in the chat box. You can raise your electronic hand. We are eagerly waiting to hear from you. Mrs. Yakachoma, please.
Good evening, Pastor.
Good evening, thank you.
Sorry, that's when I've just joined. So I'm coming from the hospital. I'm sure you know about that. So
Yes, please.
I don't have much to say today, Pastor. But though I joined late, I would just say I joined when Elder was talking about us as parents having almost all the temperament. So for me, my take home is that each and every child, like we have the name of the group, which says each and every child is special. So for me, I have 3 teenagers at the moment. So, and 1 upcoming. So when I look at them, I I want to look at it from this perspective where each and every one of us will help our children according to their temperament. And above all, because we are living in a world where most of us as parents, we are always busy. So we need to know our children's temperament and actually help them to be closer to us so that when they face challenges, it's not very difficult for us to really know what pressures they are going through. And those pressures, if we don't deal with them, those are the ones like Elder mentioned, which come out in the corporate world, in the various areas where we are managing. Maybe it could be at church level, even the way we run our homes, because those temperaments, some of them maybe they could have been kept when we were quite young, but because our parents didn't pay much attention. But my appeal to us as parents is that let's have time with our children, learn their temperaments. That way we are going to help them. That's my take home for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Siakachoma, for that beautiful contribution. I've seen the hand of Sister Mioba. Please, you can come through. Thank you.
Pastor Makongo.
Yes, my elder.
Can I just, there's a question in the chat box, which is very interesting.
Sure, sure.
How can you handle a teenager who just wants to do his own things, but not following your guidance as a parent? So here's a few things I'm still learning. I've learned still learning. It's a process with parenting. So there are a few things we must understand the season. That adolescence is a time of identity formation and not rebellion. That is one thing we must know. So normally, teens normally loves to test boundaries to discover who they are. And as we do this phase, remember what the book of Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4, it says, fathers, or put parents, but normally fathers were the culprits, do not provoke your children to anger, but to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So so whatever you do, we must remember that we should not provoke them. Now, what should we do? And this is why this lesson is important. We must shift from having control to connection. So generally, we all go through this phase. It's not a new phase. It's something that we've gone through. We continue going through. We need to move from having control but to having a connection. I think I gave an example. I'm not saying that I'm the perfect father, but I saw it. It's one happens. So we have to do more listening than you lecture. Ask open-ended questions, actually. What's more important? So let's give a child for you to understand their perspective. So we normally want to control other than just having a connection with the child. At times, they just need validations of their feelings, of their thoughts. Whenever I'm seated with my son, there is more talk. People think there's something happening there, and we will even sleep late because he's got so many questions. So sometimes he may ask you not so relevant questions, but validate his thinking as well. Says, I love your thinking, but have you ever thought of such? Even when you disagree, try to build an aspect of trust. And all those kind of things. It's one of the most important issues. And also, as we've said, we need to ensure that we parent with prayer and also parent with presence. Sometimes we just come back and become an armchair critic without actually knowing why they made such decisions. So understand as well. But as you do that, set your boundaries with grace. In other words, set clear expectations and neutral consequences. That way, it helps you actually an aspect of how you manage. And also, you have to ensure that you model what you want to see. You can never just say it. You can never just preach about it, but you have to show it. Actually, show humility. Where a parent has made a mistake, tell them, sorry, I think I was wrong in that aspect. That starts now building an aspect of trust, and the child will know that actually you mean well over them. So it's a number of issues, but the bigger point I'm trying to say is they are going through a period of identity. They're not rebellious. Ensure that you are very present. Ensure that you model. Ensure that you involve them in your life. The same way you want to show love to that neighbor's child whom you think is good, that child at church whom you think is good, and connect much more than having control. That way it will help. It has helped me with the two other teen kids. It has been very helpful actually. So that's my my 2 cents contribution to that question. But there could be others with different experiences. We're all free to share. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Elder. Sister Mio, I've seen your mic now is unmuted. Please, you can come
Yes,
through. Thank you very much, Elder.
technology overtook me. I couldn't unmute, but thank you, Elder, for the presentation, and thank you, Pastor. So for me, I have 2 questions. My first question is, how can a parent really figure out what temperament a child has? Is there some detailed, whether it's information or quiz that one can take, or I don't know how best one can figure out the temperament of a child? That is the first one. Then secondly, do temperaments change over the years? You see, I've seen cousins or even ourselves, they would say, no, as a child, this one was quiet or they were outgoing. And as they grew, they changed, they became more reserved, more quiet, speaking to themselves. So do these temperaments change, or is it external factors? Is it due to our control or influence as parents or those around us that make them change or just close in? Just trying to understand it better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Elder, you could there be someone else
Is there somebody else
before
before I make a comment? Yeah. But let's
before the
hear
elder makes a
others.
comment? Before the elder makes a comment to the 2 questions, is there anyone who would like to contribute before the elder brings us to the final conclusion?
Yeah, and this maybe on the question, is there a way to find out or something to read? There's an ambassador manual, those for 16 years to 21. In the ambassador manual, I think it should be page 24. You find there is there's some work where it says know your colors. So it's sort of an assessment. So you can use that. The child can choose the word which they think is talking about them, and then you compare the colors, and the colors they come up into like the temperament. It explains the way the child is. So when you read those, you'll be able to tell that, yes, this is speaking about this child, this is speaking about this. So you can find out from the ambassador manual.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chue, for that powerful contribution. Could there be any other parent who would like to contribute before the elder comes through? All right, elder, please, you can pick it up.
All right. So to answer that, in the first place, humans evolve. We all evolve with time. And I know I'm not speaking about this, Pastor Makong, but I just want to drive a point. Even couples evolve. I could have loved chubwaba as my favorite vegetable some 3 years ago. A year later, I would say, no, it's Chinese, which is my favorite. And I could have not loved certain movies, but again, I move. So generally, human beings evolve. And for you with teenage children, you will see others always asking you, Daddy, can we go out? Or Mommy, can we go out? Others will ask you, can we take a walk? They never used to take a walk. Others will want to confine themselves in the bedroom because they want to be all alone. So it's human being evolved, but doesn't mean that the personality or the temperament has changed. The temperament may remain the same, but you find that there is an aspect of evolving. And this is where we need much more prayers, we need much more consultants, we need much more search for as well. You can share information. Because what happens is as a person evolves, as a child evolves, even parenting must adapt to the changing personality person you used to have. And that's why it comes in. So people change. The personality will remain predominantly the same. As I said, in terms of person temperament, it's a combination general of all the four, but one or two may be more dominant than the other, so it must be there. So to answer the question of my sister Mioba is just to say personality evolves. Temperaments may evolve, people may change, but they may not change, shift so much. But it's important that we adapt to the changes. The problems we have generally is that you still think your child is 3 years old and you do not want to respect them or treat them with the age and with the temperament or the personality that they have. So it's a very complicated topic which requires much more thought, much more divine intervention, much more consultants and not sharing as we manage this phase of life. And I hope I've answered it, Sister Myoba and Pastor Makongo.
Okay, thank you. Sister Miova, have we answered both questions? Or you feel you have answered one?
Thank you. Both questions have been answered, but then I'll first go through the ambassador manual to see how satisfied I'll be. Then I can still engage the elder and you, Pastor, if you're available for that.
We are 100% available for that. Yes. Thank you very much. Just to add on what my elder has said, it is easy to know temperaments if us as parents we are aware of our own temperaments. For example, before I married, I thought I am a sanguine. And all these years, I've been thinking I'm a sanguine. After someone came into my life, I realized that she's more talkative than myself. And then I have to get back on my drawing board and see my personality. And I discovered I'm one of the people that elders mentioned. I will not mention for the sake of, yes, I discovered myself. So the first thing is, us as parents, we need to know our personality. And this will also help in our marriages. That if we know the personality of our spouses, it will help us to handle them in a gentle way. And this will also bring it down, or we narrow it down to our children. So if we know personalities, the way my son, like for example, the elder was explaining on sanguines. Here is a child who's more talkative. You can make friends easily. Just meet the person. Oh, what's your name? Oh, I know you. Oh, he's just talkative. Yes, you are able to say that. This is where my son belongs. This is where my daughter belongs. And here is a person who wants to be a leader in every angle. I'm the class monitor. And just reach, okay, want to choose a class monitor. Me, I volunteer to be the class monitor. Me, I'm volunteering to be a leader. Me, I just know that this person is in this temperament. And then there are those whom we have to handle with care. You able to know. Then there are our friends who are, we call them the brain tankers. They are very intelligent. So it's very possible as we have started this lesson, we can go through them and see their weaknesses and their strengths, and this will help. Otherwise, go through that manual, it will be a guide as well. The elder is 100% open for mentoring and guiding. Thank you.
Sorry, Pastor, there's a question in the chat. Very interesting. Maybe we can read it and just maybe you can respond to it or the presenter.
Please, Mrs. Matibini, you can go through and read it. You can read it, please.
I can't see it anymore. I don't know if somebody is able to check. It was there. Someone was asking about children who cannot sit still. I lost network. Then when I logged back in, it's not there in the chat anymore. Maybe somebody else can check.
I can see
Right.
it. Can I go ahead to read it?
Yes.
It says, "Good evening, Pastor and the presenter. Joined a bit late, but I am super grateful for the opportunity to hear such inspiring topics that are hands-on for a person like me. I have a concern. How can we help very difficult and destructive children? They don't sit down, they are hyper, and are most times very difficult with boundaries. I have a few who we have failed to handle. Kindly help. Second, the melancholic, kindly go through how to handle them. Thank you." This is from Mwewa L.
Thank you. Before the elder comes through, is there anyone with a comment on the question? Right, elder, we are ready to listen and
All
learn
right,
from you.
Papa.
Please, you can take it up.
I'm not an expert on this. And you know the funny thing is every parent thinks their children are good. So I may say I don't have a child who's a problem without knowing that there is one. That's on a lighter moment. So the dealing with children who are difficult to handle are very destructive. I'll share something I learned some years back at church. Normally there are triggers, and generally parents do not realize that there are some of these triggers that we must observe as well. The lesson we had, and which we proved it with one of my nephews, was that there are children who are actually they may become at a certain point and just start throwing in tantrums. Very difficult to handle. The lesson we learned was that generally there were two major triggers. One, it was the eating habit, which was observed, where a child eats anyhow and they are full until their belly, you can even tell that it's a bit shiny. If you do a bit of a slap, you can even hear that kind of thing. And that was actually triggering some of their behavior. And that wasn't so good. We tried it on my nephew and it worked. But the biggest trigger was that such children at the age of 2, 3, 4, 5, they do not even know that they are hungry. They start behaving like that when they are hungry. They do not also realize it until when they start throwing tantrums. So when I shared with my relation about that nephew of mine, and they observed, they realized that the hunger thing was the biggest thing. So wherever they went, they will carry food for that child. The moment the child is about to start throwing tantrums, they feed them, and there were no more tantrums. I've not seen them in a few years now. The point I'm trying to stress is dealing with such a child, there is no black and white response. It's not a 1+1. So observe the triggers. And once you observe the triggers, then you can now try to deal with that hyperness. Sometimes it's too hungry or too full or there may be other environmental issue that we must observe. So there is not a straight line issue. You're dealing with human beings, so you can never say it's A or B or C or D. It may be a combination, may be other external factors, and then you can deal with them. So that will be my response. There's also on the same question, they're asking, how do you deal with the melancholy? As we said, the melancholy are very sensitive. They are very thoughtful as well. That's what we said. So we said avoid harsh criticism with them. That is going to deal with that. Then teach them to be emotional resilient. Not only that, encourage creativity, and that's how you deal with the melancholy. I think that was the point I put across. Thank you, Pastor.
Pastor,
Yes, please.
okay, so like Elder has mentioned, usually children, it's not like a one dotted line like he was saying, where you one thing that we need to know under child psychology, it's quite a vast topic. For us who are in the education sector, I'm sure those who are on the platform, they'll be able to connect what I'm going to put across. There's an aspect which we say nature and nurture. So when you see a child who has got, they could be behavioral disorders. So you need to be very sensitive in spotting out what really is it. Is this child lacking on the area of being how have they been brought up in the environment where they're growing up from? Or is it because of just what is there in nature itself will be able to detect to them? I can give you an example. I had a grade 7 pupil. That boy never sat down in class at one place. He was always moving up and down in class. So now I started, what I did, I started drawing. He was a child who would, whenever you ask a question, even before he understands the question, he will give an answer, but you tell him to say, the answer you've given me is like this. So that child, he lacks understanding, but would always want to, when you say, who is going to go and get books that I left yesterday, he's there, just like that. So we need to point out what is it that this boy is lacking or this girl. That way we'll be able to help them in a way. But it's very, very difficult and it takes a bit of time. Because again, when we go back to child psychology, heredity as well as environment also affects the temperaments of a child. So when we look at all those areas, we'll be able to strike a balance and see how do we help this kind of a child. But I can assure you to say that there will come a point, just like we are saying, to say temperaments do alter depending in the environment where somebody is. For me, I discovered myself to say I was growing up a very shy person and I was not a public speaker. But when I went for training as a teacher, I discovered to say I'm a public speaker and I'm not a shy person. It's because of the environment, maybe for lack of a better term, in which I grew up somehow, that actually made me to be the way I was, because I was a very confined person. Never wanted to be around people. But when I went for teaching, I discovered to say I can actually be somebody who can share information and also teach my peers. That's my other contribution that I can make on temperaments. They tend to alter, and also you need to look at the environment, heredity, nature, and nurture. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Siaka Choma, for that beautiful contribution. Sister Mioba, I saw your hand was up. Kindly, you can come through.
Thank you, Pastor. I just wanted also to add on the many comments. In some instances, for some children, like mine who are busy in some places, I try to distract them, not discourage, sorry, distract them positively. And what I mean is, like if we're supposed to be seated in church, I would print out maybe some church puzzles, something for them to color, to draw their attention away from them wanting to jump up and down, go under people's chairs, play with people's hair. So I found that positive distraction helps. We have these very attractive, colorful children's study guides that we purchase for them, and they also have puzzles at the end. So I think for me, in some instances, such positive distractions also help just to calm them down, and keeping them constantly engaged with new activities, not the same, because they easily get bored. So you have to think of other things, maybe mathematics puzzle, English puzzles, anything, church puzzles, a new engaging activity, just keeping them engaged in something positive every time. I think that's another way we can help children that seem to be all over the place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are very, very grateful. Someone says give them activities, responsibilities, leadership, can be calm when they rule loud. That's someone's comment. Yes, thank you very much. Reloud, thank you very much for that. Could there be any parent, or have we answered your question, my dear sister, to your expectation? Or you still have some few doubts which you need maybe the mentors comment again? Sister Mwewa, are you on the call? All right. Maybe to add on what other parents have commented, there's what we call attention deficient hyperactive disorder and just ADD. These two are different from each other. However, as a parent, you are able to hear comments from the teachers.
I was having a problem. I'm sorry to stop you halfway.
No problem.
I'm so super grateful for those contributions. I've learned so much about even the puzzles, giving them the puzzles, and the fact that there are a number of them. You cannot, it's not like a one size fits all kind of scenario where you can just point at one situation to say this is the one that is affecting the children. The contributions that have come are very clear in there, but I've taken into consideration much it has been well articulated.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So you can hear from the teacher's comments. At school, the child is hyperactive. At home, and then it's also important to just consult from other people like psychologists, like pediatricians, who can also guide on the medical aspect perspective, to see that my child's behavior is like this. And then the age also, there are children who are very active, super active when they are young, very active. Even in church, they will run, they go up the pulpit, they will come back. That is not a demon, that's not a disease. That is just their age. As they are growing, they tend to calm down and they become humble. So sometimes we just need to be very patient with them. Some you may even say maybe it's a demon, we need to fast and pray. No, it is just their temperaments, they are active, and the bodies has got a lot of energy. Yes, as they are growing, yeah, the energy levels are reducing, and they tend now to figure out, no, I am in the presence of big people, I need to behave. No, I've been given, there are times where you give a child a puzzle, within a short time they work on it and they are done, and they'll come back to you again. You try to give them another work, within a short time they are done. Yes, you should not even think of maybe it's demon, it's just the age. Yeah, it's just the age. But if you see that, no, this one I need maybe a psychologist, maybe a pediatrician who can guide why this child is like this. Yes, otherwise, sometimes it is just the personality of the child. As they are growing, they will outgrow it and they outshine it and they become like. But the point that we should take is home is the presenter emphasized on the point of not comparing children. Why can't you become like that one? You are actually damaging their self-esteem. Otherwise, thank you so very much. There's a comment here: parenting a child with ADHD can be challenging. Remember to take break and seek support for self. It can also be tiresome. The topic is going to come by one of our presenter on handling differently abled children. Yes, but sometimes parents may mistaken of ADHD to just normal things. So please, thank you very much, parents, for joining. Allow me to invite the presenter to give the last remarks, and then we close in prayer if there is no any other question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. I think my last remark is we must remember, as the name of the group is, every child is special. And the fact that every child is special, we must make parenting a priority. You agree with me that we prioritize everything and everyone except our children. So let's make them that. I remember one statement one of my mentors made. I asked him to say, what do you find as success? He said, until my children are well educated and well disciplined and contribute positively to society and the church, that's when I'm going to define or consider myself as a very successful person. I pray that is our part of looking at our success story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elder. We are very, very grateful for your time. In a busy world, you just spared your time to just talk to us as parents. We really appreciate. May God richly bless you, bless the family, and may God extend the territory of influence. We are forever grateful, as every child is special. Maybe, Elder, you can close for us in prayer.
Our Father and our God in heaven, we come in your presence this evening, thanking you for such a moment when we can share such very important topics. Our prayer is that have your own way, even as we ask that you forgive us of our sins. Even as we look at our parenting approaches, our methods, yes, we've been weighed in the balances of heaven, have been found wanting. But we come on the authority of your word in James 1 verse 5, which says, does any one of you seek wisdom? Let him ask from the Lord who is able to give without spare. And therefore, in the name of Jesus, we want to pray for our children in the first place. That may you speak to each and every one of them. May you enable them to live a life of purpose, even as we declare a blessing on their lives. That may the blessings overtake them. Bless them in the city, bless them in the country, bless them in whichever place they go to. May heaven now open the good treasures of heaven that indeed they will not even have a place where they are going to store them. We pray as well for wisdom. We pray for favor. We pray for discernment. We pray that may we be a great inspiration to them in good as well as in bad times. We may ask so many things, but our prayer is that may surely goodness and your mercy follow us today and all days of our lives. In Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen and amen.